Howdy, folks. Happy Tuesday. My God, it's actually friggin' sunny in Buffalo. I'm shocked. We'll discuss some NHL things, pre-show stuff, and I think we'll be doing Team Sweden projections for the 2022 Olympics, which I think are never going to happen. But anyway, Russ, go ahead.
Well, let's have a debate. Let's go with our little movie debate. Mike and I were working on this. Who is better in Westerns, John Wayne or Clint Eastwood? I'll go first. Okay. I saw early Clint Eastwood. I saw the spaghetti Westerns with my dad. I remember seeing the movie Hang 'em High. I was telling Mike, in the movies, I don't remember what year that came out. It had to be early 70s.
72, 73, something like that.
Right. Yeah. No way in the world my parents should have allowed me to go in that movie because they opened the movie with a guy getting hung. I mean, but hey, it's good childhood content. End of the day, I'm still going to go John Wayne because, and I have no skin in the game. I don't like one better than the other. I've liked certain movies from both. For whatever reason, I guess John Wayne played a better Western part to his denigration, because when he was in other movies, he still had the same Western accent, and it seemed like the only thing he could do, but he was really good at it.
It was his only. It was basic. It was, yeah. It was a good. He's a fastball pitcher, but it was a damn good fastball.
Basically. Yes,
right. Yes. So I'm gonna lean more towards Clint. I always enjoyed it, and I think spaghetti westerns and everything, but certainly, and this is maybe a little bit more recency stuff here, but I mean, Unforgiven was an incredible film, and to me, I think really kind of put Clint a little bit more over the top. I mean, John, and again, it's also, these movies are a product of the eras that they were made in too, and certainly Eastwood's era was became far more edgier in terms of the content.
Sure.
In the 70s, certainly, as Rush just stated, starting it off with a hanging in the first scene would be something you wouldn't have seen necessarily in a Wayne movie.
Right. Yeah, but I'll stop you there for a second though, because movies like Red River, which was like in the 50s when when he was really young, or The Searchers, where a family gets killed and a young white girl gets kidnapped by an Indian tribe, Natalie Wood. I mean, that for 1956, that was sort of out there a little bit. So, I mean, I think they pushed the envelope a little bit, but not like Outlaw Josie Wales or Hang 'em High or some of the Eastwood movies from the 70s.
Yeah.
So I mean,
the other fun thing though, when I was talking about Clint Eastwood, and I posted this on Twitter and on Facebook, it reminded me there was a John Wayne movie that I remember seeing the trailer for in the movie theater called Brannigan, which was a complete departure from his normal stuff. He was in London and he was a Chicago cop, but again, with the same accent. So it didn't change.
Again, we're not talking about a man with incredible,
range.
Yeah. Exactly. This is not as I stated, fastball pitcher, 4-seam, 2-seam. That's about it. We're not talking about a guy who's going to be throwing in change-ups here.
The two things that made me laugh though were they knocked down a door. They either knocked it down or blew it up, and he goes knock knock to the
knock knock.
Yeah, in John Wayne's voice, and that was pretty ridiculously bad. And then the other bad part is just the interaction with the Brits and John Wayne was awkward. It just didn't seem to work.
Well, I think, wasn't he supposed to be like an Irish cop from Chicago? So
yes.
maybe that was the antagonism, because of the British and the Irish.
But it just didn't matter. They didn't seem to enjoy talking to him.
No, there was
the actors.
Yeah, there was an edge to it. Yeah, I mean, he was definitely out of his element. But if you look at both of them, because I love movies and I love both John Wayne and Clint Eastwood. Their acting careers are similar because, I mean, what were the two genres that Eastwood and John Wayne mostly hopped back and forth? It was either a military guy like Heartbreak Ridge or Kelly's Heroes, or it was
probably a little bit because I grew up with seeing Firefox, but again, military spy plane kind of stuff,
or westerns, because Eastwood, pale.
At the end of the day, both of them embodied our idea of whatever we have in our head of masculine,
Yes.
macho American can do.
But the hilarious thing, though, Anthony, is that if you look at the movies that John Wayne made in the, I'd say early to mid 60s, the Westerns, El Dorado, Rio Bravo, it was the same movie. They just subbed it. Like James Caan was the young guy in the one movie. And then Ricky Nelson was the young guy.
Nelson, I remember that. Yep.
Dean Martin was the drunk in the one movie. And
that's good casting right there.
Right. And then Robert Mitchum was the drunk in the other one.
That's good casting right there.
Right. So it's like, I mean, it was.
Listen, it's a good director puts his, just like a good coach, recognizes the talent or skill level of that particular player or actor, and puts them in the best spot for them to succeed. That's what you're supposed
Robert
to
Mitchum
do.
any different in what
So that involves
if
that involves a wreck, a liver getting wrecked, so be it.
Yeah. Mike, was it Winds of War that Robert Mitchum was in, the TV series?
Yes.
Short series, like he's the same guy.
Yeah. Oh no. It was like, well, that's Spencer Tracy was always Spencer Tracy. He was never a character. You know?
Right.
You know, you can say about again. You can continue forward and saying honestly, most Tom Hanks movies, and I like Tom Hanks. Don't get me wrong, but you never quite shake the fact that it's Tom Hanks.
And when Tom Hanks tries to put on an accent, there was a bad Coen, probably the worst Coen Brothers movie, and I cannot think of the name of it right now, but Tom Hanks has a Southern accent in it. It's terrible. I mean, because you watch Castaway or you watch any Tom Hanks movie, and he's just Tom Hanks. He's likable. He's a good actor. You know, you can put him like I thought.
Joe versus the Volcano.
I thought The Post was an okay movie. It could have been a lot better. But
Money Pit. I like The Money Pit.
But he had to imitate the editor of the Washington Post, Bradley, and he's not Jason Robards.
Exactly.
Right.
And for anybody who's going back who remembers
All the President's Men.
All the President's Men, Robards is embodied Ben Bradley. He just,
They look like, they sounded like,
And don't get me wrong. I mean, Hanks did a good job. I enjoyed it, but it's not a case where you feel like you're watching. It's like I haven't seen the Mr. Rogers movie.
Me neither.
And I'm sure it's outstanding, but I'm probably going to watch it more to see Matthew Rhys's reaction.
Yes.
Playing, and how he responds to him more than I'm looking at Hanks, because I know what I'm going to. Well, again, I know what I'm going to be getting with Hanks.
I mean, Esmir picks the finest of Tom Hanks movies for his favorite. He says Bachelor Party, a great Tom Hanks movie.
I mean, look,
it was a good period. Oscar.
It was a good little period. Friday night, catching a buzz, go see the movie. That's what that movie was.
What was our? Yeah, go ahead.
So the other thing is, Mike had mentioned to me Pete Townshend's birthday today, 75. Is that what you said, Mike?
Yes.
So interesting because. He's had a good career, obviously, a great career. A couple of years ago, I want to say it was probably 10 years ago now, he was playing at a bubble. If you remember, he was losing his hearing. And then I guess with the advent, Mike and I were figuring of Bluetooth, all of a sudden that wasn't a problem for him touring. I think what happens with Townsend that is unfair is he really is a great guitarist, but he's a great guitarist because he writes great guitar leads and then can pull them off when he plays them. There are better guitarists out there. But there are a few that could write the way he does and then pull it off live the way he does. He's a great live guitarist. And so I think that's what he gets kind of jerked on long term.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, but it's funny because he's one of the few artists that I have listened to demos of songs and think they're just as good as the actual song. Like if you ever listen, he put out a couple albums that were just pure demo tapes, and one was a demo of a Pinball Wizard, and it's incredible. It sounds as good or almost maybe better than the original version. It's the
Quadrophenia special one. I have that, and it has all the demos from it, right?
Right.
And anything Daltrey does, he does. And some of the songs are actually better with Townsend. Like it's true. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, he did Love Rain or Me, and
it's really good.
On that one, I know that they used the track for the organ. from the demo and transferred it on to the actual, because it was too good. They just said we can't duplicate that. So let's do. But yeah, no, I think, and I also think that the thing that sort of distracted people was sort of the histrionics on stage during their prime in the late 60s and early 70s, where he's smashing guitars and he's, bashing up amplifiers. And I'm like, he's great. He, that got him a lot of attention, but he was great in spite of that. And well, he's one of my favorites, but it was just like the last 3 days, it was a cavalcade of music heroes and their birthdays. Yet today was Pete Townsend, yesterday was Rick Wakeman from Yes, and the day before was Bill Bruford from Yes, so, and King Crimson. So,
and what's your take on Townsend?
Many guitars died to bring you this tour.
Yes,
He's killed a few.
He killed more than a few. No,
Yes.
Townsend's obviously an all-time great. You guys really, there's very little I can add that you guys haven't stated already.
When he does
I mean, the windmill is that's him.
That's a classic.
He had between, as you said, the writing of the leads, how the music sounds, when he plays it versus Daltrey, all that goes into it.
Well, did you ever hear the story about the windmill? Apparently, he did it so forcefully, like.
I'm sure he probably had rotator cuff damage.
Probably.
No?
No? Finger damage.
What happened?
He a couple times he basically
struck his fingers against the guitar
so
hard
he took the skin right off the tips of his fingers.
I believe it,
because he was doing this like probably when he was inebriated at times during concerts, and he didn't even feel it. And then he looks down and he's got like chunks of flesh.
Oh no! What have I done?
So,
I've taken the nip off of two. Somebody give me.
Right, there's a concert in the 90s where they did.
Look at me nubs.
Yeah, there was a 25th anniversary of Tommy, and they did a concert special on TV with Steve Winwood playing the Eric Clapton.
That was great. I saw that.
Yeah, Phil Collins and Elton John doing Pinball Wizard.
And I can think of myself. I'm sorry. I'm hearing all those names and going, man, that's a lot of cocaine.
Yeah. And if you notice him playing the guitar, he's got like plastic fingertips on, because he's not doing this, but I'm sure he's probably has nerve damage or something like that on his fingers, because he did that all the time. So.
It's kind of like athletes, after many years, that was very physical, arduous night after night after night, of going on tour, traveling, putting your body through that, and there is a price to pay at a certain point, no question. Yeah,
and a band that refused to retire.
Well, the interesting thing is, though, of all the incarnations, I mean, Keith Moon, obviously, they had to replace because he died, but Townsend never left, and they never had to replace him.
Nope.
Same with Daltrey. So at least they pretty much were the Who the whole time.
Yeah, the only way you got out of that band was by dying. Entwistle died and Moon died.
Yeah, and Entwistle as well, right.
Yeah, but thankfully, luckily enough, I saw them. I mean, I wasn't old enough to see them with Moon because he passed away, I think, in '79. But I saw them when they did a Tommy reunion tour, and it was 3 of the 4, and they had Simon Phillips playing drums, and they had guest musicians, Billy Idol, which was actually, he was pretty good. But the other one was Gary Glitter, and this was like 3 months before he got busted for.
I'm sure there was more than a few a little bit of wincing there from the band.
Yeah, but it was a good concert in spite of it.
I saw them. I want to say I saw them 5 years ago when I was writing a lot of columns for this one magazine at Wells Fargo, and they were still great. I was really shocked how good they were. Simon Townsend warmed up for them.
Yes.
And he was really good. And like you said, Phillips was on the drums and he was good. And Daltrey's voice was still good enough. Like it was really, they didn't have to do much trickery either. And Townsend, he still was playing great. I was very happy with that because I had never gotten a chance to see him live. I only saw them on satellite at Live Aid one time. So that was great.
All right, we'll start the show. Ax should be joining us any minute here. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Tuesday, May 19th, 2020.
I'm Anthony Mangione from Center Ice Philly Magazine.
Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Michael Lagello, and this is the Hockey Buzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. Okay, let's start with the news that broke a few hours ago. I think it has it's going to have a little bit of an effect on the NHL potentially opening up. But it came out in an announcement from both the Canadian and U.S. government that the non-essential border crossings are still closed until June the 21st. So it's been extended 30 days. Now, I wrote something on Hockey Buzz saying that I think that this probably eliminates the possibility of Edmonton, Vancouver, and specifically Toronto of being hub cities. But Frank Cervalli came out a little while ago and said that he doesn't, based on what the NHL has been telling people, they don't think it's going to have any effect on the time frame of the league opening up and where the hub cities are. So we'll see.
Publicly.
Yep.
That's the public face. Yeah.
But we'll see what happens. I mean, I think it's, I think I'm right in my conclusion. I'm sure Frank's got more information than I do. But Anthony, start with you. What do you think of this announcement in terms of its effect on the league?
Well, the NHL, again, I think is kept, while some ideas have certainly leaked out, I think, in terms of overall, they've been pretty conservative, I think, for the most part. I think Bettman certainly, at least publicly, have been conservative with regards to any announcements that they can make. I just feel like, again, whatever the plans are, they have to get some kind of an idea of if they're making that kind of, if that's kind of the assumption right now that it isn't going to affect their plans. Do they know that they would be considered to be essential at this point and would be able to have sort of an exception to that particular rule, and that such that wouldn't affect their original plans? If not, then it's a domino effect across the board then in terms of any kind of planning going forward with regards to getting the players back in, getting the season started sometime during the summer. That's basically it. So the league has to get some kind of a heads or tails here of will they be considered to be essential?
Right. I think maybe by June 21st, or if not shortly after that, the essential tag may be gone, from a lot of things.
Right. That's true.
And that might help. And that if they did have a hub in Toronto, that would help them get media coverage, because let's face it, the NHL is still a league that needs media coverage. And by then, you figure when things start, maybe it's late July, August, then you would probably have media coverage be allowed. It just may be more spaced out or whatever, fewer media. But I think all of that would be a little bit of a return to normalcy. I still don't think you have fans, but I think those other things at least start to play in, and people can start to get their livelihoods back. The players might start feeling a little bit more normal. I think all of that'll happen, but yeah, it's not a guarantee, like Anthony said. And right now, this is what's coming out publicly, and it could all change again. I think the frustrating part is that we thought that they were close to making decisions 2 weeks ago, and now they're probably a week to 10 days from making any decisions again.
And then that's what came out today. It was I think it was Pierre LeBrun reported 7 to 10 days. And of course, as the fan part of me is saying, come on, let's go here. Now, I understand there's a lot of logistics here. I'm sure right now they're planning. Okay, say, for example, they're planning 2 hubs of 12 teams. You've got to line up hotels. You've got to line up testing. You've got to line up practice schedules, game schedules that tie into network TV. All that, and then you have to plan on probably moving on a dime in case there's a spike in one of those 2 hub cities where you got to move it to another city. So I get it. I get the logistics, and the whole thing are going to be really difficult. But they've been working on this for probably, I would say, a month. You would think that they'd have that lined up. Yeah, they'd have that lined up by now.
Yeah, you would think that. I was on Sirius XM earlier, and they asked me about revenue. And, as an example, like with the UFC right now, everything's pay-per-view or the ESPN contract. They actually do show on their reports gate revenue 0. And that's going to be the same thing for the NHL. And so it made me think maybe they have out of each playoff series, a pay-per-view game that's a little bit different than the rest. Or maybe if it's an East Coast game, only people on the West Coast can get it because NBC is going to show it on the East Coast, something like that to generate other revenue, and maybe the gambling aspect where we've always thought, hey, you could bet on this face-off, you could bet on that.
We've seen this
start to happen.
We've all seen this. I mean, sitting in the arenas and the press boxes and seeing, once things got legal in Pennsylvania and New Jersey, we saw it. I mean, and how much it just seemed to take over Wells Fargo Center in terms of everywhere, especially at the, at press level, we could literally see it.
So why not at home, right? Where you could do it on your remote.
It's even easier. You don't even have the overhead. Overhead cost to worry about. Everything's just all the internet, and it's a matter of host.
That could be the revenue that they're missing.
I should say overhead. I mean, there's still overhead with regards to hosting and everything, but still, versus the amount of people you would have under normal circumstances.
Yeah, why do I think the hesitancy among the NHL owners will disappear when they see they can make millions of dollars betting on, who scores on a power play and who doesn't? And, a point like fantasy teams being per game like FanDuel does. I'm sure that will fall. The things against that will fall by the wayside. Now, this is something, and this is not anything new, but I heard this yesterday listening to the Michael Kay show in New York about the future of media, and not media access into locker rooms, not media access into press boxes, but broadcast crews. And if you think about this is probably the way things are going. Teams probably during this pandemic, I mean, for the rest of the regular season or playoffs or whatever they play in Major League Baseball, in the NBA, and in the NHL, are probably doing games in studio off monitors instead of actually being at games. And what Michael Kay was saying, because he travels for most of the Yankee season home and away, is that more than likely going forward in terms of budget, they will save a lot of money on hotel costs, on flights, on other things, simply on the broadcast itself, by having the crew stay in New York or wherever broadcast for road games, doing it off monitors, and only having the crews at the stadium for home games. So, I mean,
I think temporarily, sure.
It has been kind of, if you think about it, Russ, it has been kind of going in that direction anyway, in terms of
some of it has.
Again, it depends. It depends on the sport. Depends on the market. Like we've seen it with the fly. We've seen it with the Flyer beat. Basically, who travel? I mean, it may be one or two. I guess in terms of traveling, there's maybe a couple of reporters and the TV crew that would go.
The TV crew does travel.
Crew, but in terms of independent press,
no, it's not a ton. Yeah. It's not a ton, but Mike's talking about the TV crew also not traveling. And I think, yes, you could do it this year to kind of make up for it. But I do think
it's an experiment, though, and you want to see kind of how it goes.
Yeah, I think as an example, if we're going to use Flyers fans as an example, they want Jackson home and away. They're not going to be satisfied, even if he's not there with the call. They're going to want to hear things that are going on in the other market. But right now you don't have that. So I think they can get away with it this year. I don't think they can get away with it long term. I think the broadcast would suffer a bit.
Yes and no. I mean, I know that Don LaGreca, who does some Ranger broadcasts, he was hired to do World Cup of Hockey games in 2016, and he did them, I think he said, from the ESPN studios in Bristol when the games were in Toronto. They didn't want to, splurge to send him to Toronto for 2 weeks while the tournament was going on, so he just did them remotely, and people really didn't notice. Now, obviously, we've heard story. I mean, the Carolina Hurricanes stuff with the now simulcasting the TV broadcast on the radio. The Sabres do the same thing with Jenneret and Dan Dunleavy. The Leafs a few years ago when Lou Lamoriello took over, when he banned the broadcast crew from the team charter, they were going to have Joe Bowen and Jim Ralph do games from Toronto.
And people bitched and complained, and it changed it.
Now, maybe it'll be dependent on the revenue of the particular team. If it's Toronto, they'll send the crews on the road. If it's Carolina or smaller market teams, maybe they won't. Maybe that's already happening.
Well, you know what, Mike? I think what the difference is, and we saw this like when Carolina came in, Forsland was still there. It was just him. him and a robot camera. I think you can get away with that better than not having anybody or any of your crew travel, because again, like when that Toronto thing happened, that thing blew up right away and fans were mad. I think the other missing thing that we're talking about here is we're all paying money, cable package money, to get a certain product. Like, so, for the Flyers, it's Comcast Sportsnet. And so people are not going to want to pay the same money if they feel like they're getting cheated on some of those things. And I think fans would complain. I really do.
The big question is going to be this year, I think, is depending on when these games get started, you're going to get an idea of just really what fan, and then granted, we're in an incredibly unique situation. But I think this is also their way of taking the temperature of the reaction of people to this. And then if they go back to normal, not traditionally go back to normalcy, there is no such thing, but something that, whatever the new normal will be, is that something that isn't as big a deal from them after this thing has happened versus as it would have been before.
Yeah, I think that's fair, because I think, again, as an example, we talked about this maybe a week ago, Mike. We're all paying for like regional sports packages. We're not getting any games, but we're not getting a refund either. And so,
yeah, and
they're showing us reruns, and we're paying.
It depends if they're very much on it. What was the email that I think the Flyers sent out with regards to certain games that might have been wiped out in terms of it will be applied to season ticket holders?
Season tickets. What I'm talking about is at home, what we're paying on our cable subscriptions. What I'm saying is we're paying, $7 a month for regional sports. That includes, Comcast Sportsnet and a few other things like MLB Network and those kinds of things. We're paying for that, but we're only getting reruns. We're not getting any new content or live content or anything like that. If they continue on with that for another year, fans are going to reassess what they're paying for, and they could get a big drop.
And at the end of the day, we have a lot of people out of work who aren't getting to go back into work, and there's only a certain pool of money,
right? And they're available. They're scraping the bottom of the barrel when it comes to these old games. I mean, MSG has been broadcasting classic Sabres games in place of like the replay of an actual regular season game, and obviously now the Sabres would be out of it because the playoffs would have started a month ago and they wouldn't have been in it. But they're showing like San Jose Buffalo games with Ed Belfour as the Sharks goalie. So we're talking 90s.
Yeah, I saw the NHL Network was showing Game 2 of the '97 Eastern Conference Finals, and I would have had fun with that if we were friends back then. The interesting thing is, though, I never thought the Rangers were going to beat the Flyers in that series. I always looked at it and said, "Look, it's nice to see Gretzky and Messier on the same power play. It's fun, but I never thought they were going to win that series." So, but you can only show those things for so long. Like if they're showing them a month from now, fans are going to start getting antsy.
And we go to Ack and his in pursuit of the Sasquatch in somewhere in Pennsylvania. Hi,
exactly what's happening, Mike. Actually, funny you should say that. My son is wants to be a zoologist and is a really lover of animals. So where I am is Hickory Run State Park in the Poconos. And this is you've been here, right?
I've been there. My brother used to camp there quite a few years.
Right. So you know the Boulder Park where there's just nothing but boulders? Yep. That's where I am. I'm right next to that. It's literally right over there. And what I did was we're up here and he's put trail cameras up. There's a certain kind of brown bear up here that's going extinct, but they're trying to like trace it down a little bit. And so he's signed up with this program that he actually proposed, and they're doing it. Where you're trying to find out, the habitats of these bears. So what we did is we bought a bunch of $20 trail cameras, put them all throughout this area, and we drove up. We've been driving up here every other week to pick up the cameras. So when the show today was later on in the day, I'm like, this is the perfect day to go up and do it, and figuring that I'd be able to get back in perfect amount of time. But then, there was actually traffic on the turnpike, which I didn't expect. So we ended up, we picked up the cameras, and now I'm just doing the show from the woods. And literally, I got to show you this. It's hilarious. You'll like this.
Hopefully, this isn't the last show.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah.
Like Matt Hooper in the movie Jaws. I hope you have an anti-bear cage.
Right. Well, if you guys see a bear behind me, but I want to show you my setup. My laptop, I actually wedged between two trees and put a stick in front of it. Can you see that?
Oh yeah, nice.
There it goes.
So that's what I'm talking into right now. I'm just
Okay.
sitting on the ground and talking to the two trees. So I
That's
I
good,
I
good
told my son,
ingenuity. I did go burro riding up there one time, and it was interesting because you think, you're just going to kind of mosey along on burros. They actually went a lot faster than I thought they would, and they slid. They actually, with us on the backs, they slid down the mountain on like this mud path, and I was like, "Whoa!" That was like a extreme kind of thing you weren't expecting. So it was fun. I've been up in the Poconos too.
I'm here. Sorry.
It's okay.
Lost there for a sec.
I
Okay.
was trying to get in that room and realized that I signed out when I did that. So sorry about that.
Okay. We started talking about the news of the U.S.-Canada border, the closing extension for 30 days.
Yeah.
I'm optimistic in the sense that most of the states along the Canadian-U.S. border, the rate of a positive is going down. So this might be the final extension of it. But I got some feedback from some Canadian fans who are like, I don't want the border to open up anymore. I'm like, well, I'm sorry. There's commerce between U.S. and Canada. It's going to happen. It's just a question of when. I understand the fear right now because the U.S. The cases of COVID-19 are more prevalent in the U.S., but the population is 10 times the size of Canada. So of course it would be more prevalent.
Right. I mean, 30 days takes it up till
June the 21st.
Exactly?
Yeah, June the 21st.
Well, June 1st, right? So
21st.
till June 1st.
21.
June 21st. All right, thanks. Yeah. So that to me is it's still fine. I mean, I don't think they're planning on starting the playing actually until July, right? So
It's going to end up running later than that, I bet.
This could, it could go. I mean, they've given themselves a lot of space if they go with this new format, because it won't take this new format's not that labor intensive as far as how long it'll take them to do it. And they've given themselves July, August. I mean, they could still. It's possible they could start the season in October. I've been told.
It's a tight window, though. I will say that because if it's a round
very
robin,
tight.
5 and 8 in how many days, you really do. I mean, injury really becomes a concern when you're going from
Yes,
true.
I will stick to this until I hear otherwise. When you've got two of the rights holders, two of the biggest right holders that also had the Olympics, and you've got this cavernous gap of 3 weeks in mid to late July to early August where they have no programming and they're facing the possibility of having to show repeats of The Voice and Chicago Med. I think that they're going to put pressure on the NHL. If you're going to start up,
I forget The Bachelor too.
No, that's on ABC.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's how often I watch.
Well, that ended last night. Yeah, the new Bachelor ended last night, I believe. So.
God, what classic television!
I haven't watched one episode.
It was goodness. The new one was so bad. It was called "Listen to Your Heart." It was combining the insecurities of people they already have on The Bachelor by making them all musicians, which is like touching insecure people that are super insecure already, and making sure you get the most insecure of them to be musicians who are insecure by nature.
It's cringe TV. That's what they go. They just want cringe TV. That's all they want. Everybody watch cringe TV. Cringe and go. Thank God that's not me.
I can't watch that crap. I'm sorry, but basically the point I'm making is with two of the rights holders, basically looking for programming at that point. I think that the NHL is probably going to push off training camps until maybe early to mid June, and that they'll be aiming for mid July to start whatever they're going to do.
Right.
Now,
They've deferred everything. They've deferred giving us an answer. They've deferred when players are going to decide when to give up that last check or not. Everything's deferred now. It's like everything's been kicked down the road really like for the last month. And it's a little bit surprising because I thought we would have a few things right now that would be set in stone, and we've got nothing.
It's really strange because, like I said yesterday, guys, when I was talking to you guys, I talked to two teams yesterday who they were people who called me out of the blue, like guys that work for teams. And I told you guys who they were after the show and stuff like that. But they were, you can agree, legit people who work for teams. And they were told yesterday to be prepared for an announcement yesterday. Right? And sorry.
Where's the bear?
We got it. That should hold. Anyway, so they were told yesterday to prepare for announcement yesterday. Now I've been told, they've been told today, like maybe prepare for the announcement today. It's coming. I don't know whether it's like it feels like you have to like alert all the relatives of the dead first or whatever they're trying to do. I don't know what they're trying to do to make this happen, but they want to make sure that everybody's on the same page. And I think it's going to come today or tomorrow. I think we're kind of getting an announcement of what's happening very, very soon here. I mean, when teams hold meetings with their staff to tell them to prepare for this, it's like it's happening. It's just when,
Yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, the suspense is killing me. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
I have a vested interest because I would love training camps and games because then I can actually write about training camp and games. But
right. We all want to get back to work.
I understand the the fact that they, like I was saying to Anthony and Russ before, the logistics of everything that has to be planned is so complex that I can understand them wanting to dot every I and cross every T. But they, if their plan is to release everything at one go, I wish they wouldn't do that. I wish they would give us something. Like, okay, tell us about the draft. Tell us about Arizona.
Right.
Tell us about
even draft lottery. We don't know. And now they seem like they're going to punt that until after.
No, and I think the reason that might be getting punted is because, like we talked about yesterday. Sorry, it's not very comfortable sitting on the ground here. Like we were talking about yesterday, now the new thing is, maybe we're going to put Chicago and the Rangers in and not put Buffalo and Anaheim in, and that's the newest. So, and take the top 12 teams and put them in, and
it also seems like that now if they really are going to have 8 hubs, that they're going to finish the regular season, which again, I don't understand. But now it seems like things have swung back towards that.
Well, I have a feeling that
I don't know about that.
I have a feeling what that would be, Russ, is fulfilling the contracts of those regional sports networks, like X.
We talked about that before, right? Yeah, we talked about that. Those are big issues.
That's simply not a money grab because they want to make as much money as they possibly can for the preservation of the league. But if they're going to play meaningless games of like Detroit versus Ottawa, then it's to fulfill contracts. It's not because of you could jump to 24 teams, right, include everybody in that scenario, and everything would be fine. Except they're not playing 82 games, and they're probably losing millions of dollars because of that.
Yeah, probably.
I get it, and I understand why they would have to do it. But really, you can solve most of those issues by going to a 2014 playoff and substituting those regular season games with that round to get down to 16 teams, because that would be, it wouldn't be as many games, but they would be games of a lot more consequence.
They definitely would. It got windy here. I hope that doesn't sound bad.
No, it's fine.
Nope.
Okay, good. My computer may fly off this thing at any moment. No, I don't see them doing that. I don't think they're going back there, Mike. I think even though they're looking at those hubs, I don't think they're going back to to finishing the regular season. I don't think they are.
Yeah.
I mean, I really would be shocked if that happened.
Sorry,
that would be shocking.
Here's a newsy thing. So Corey Schneider apparently was commented saying that it doesn't make sense to resume the season if the hiatus goes into June or July, but he also said he's coming back. He's not thinking about retirement. And man, I mean, this guy's been through so many injuries. I don't see where he is going to pick it back up magically.
He's played so poorly. I mean, I don't mean against him, but he has not played well.
It's been injuries that killed him
in a long time. It's not his fault, It's just the guy's been hurt. But just like,
he's got another 2 years at $6 million, so he'd be giving up a lot of money.
That's $12 million. Why not to retire, right? I don't know. I mean, that makes sense. Obviously, you're not going to do that if you do that. But I don't know. I think that we're definitely looking at. I don't know. Just the Corey Schneider thing aside, I just would be shocked if we're playing the regular season, because I talked to people in Detroit yesterday too who said that they have told everybody that it's done, that they're not coming back. So I don't know. I just can't see it.
Now
that would be a major shift, and if that happened, that means if we don't get an announcement by the end of this week.
I think with everything being pushed off, in terms of, still with the uncertainty of everything going as far as potentially the 21st of June, it all points in that direction.
It does.
It's just too much. The timeline becomes far too compressed to pull it off any other way.
It does. And you got to, this whole thing is a huge risk, no matter how you slice it. Like even trying to finish this season is an enormous risk, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you know, the fact that to make it any more complicated than it has to be, I mean, it's already crazy. It really is. It's already crazy. I mean,
I openly pondered when I was talking to Russ earlier whether the delay from the NHL is the fact that they're waiting for Major League Baseball and the NBA to come out with their plans, so they're not the first one, and they haven't stuck their neck out. And I hope that that's not the case, because honestly, if you have a plan, if you've put things together, then just announce it. But if you're waiting for
the NHL likes to be the first on things to announce them. So
they're not.
I know this
anymore.
I know this is risky, but I still would doubt it. I would highly doubt it that they were waiting for anybody else.
Maybe they were planning, and MLB kind of sort of did their thing first, and they were like, "Oh, okay, let's back up and see how."
Yeah, maybe they're trying to get out first.
Let's see what the reaction is, and then we'll recalibrate.
That's possible. I mean, that is. I mean, they are very conscious of how they're being perceived. No questions about it. And that they could be like, okay, before we go out there, let's see if people freak out about MLB. And what would you say the reaction to MLB has been, guys? I mean, you guys are more on top of it than
I mean, it's mixed, but they're getting talked about. Right. Nobody's talking about the NHL again.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, everything is coming out in drips and drabs. Like, yesterday, John Shannon reported that there's momentum now for the draft in late August or early September, which you would conclude that means that the season, that the Stanley Cup playoffs would be completed by late August or early September, because they would have the lottery right after and then have the draft. Now, I think that's a better idea, because in early September, the potential of the sports calendar in early September it's obscene. The Masters, the Kentucky Derby, the Daytona 500, NFL, Major League Baseball, possibly the NBA. I'm sorry, that's probably the best time to have the draft, because I don't think the draft in and of itself, if you have it in late June, is going to bring a ton of traffic to the NHL. It will bring some, but it won't bring enough.
Well, did you hear Eugene Melnick yesterday came out? Eugene Melnick says, I'm still hoping that the draft is in June. He came out and said that yesterday.
He's got 2 picks in the top 5, so of course
he wants to get it.
Well, he wants to sell tickets, obviously. Like, the sooner the draft gets going.
Once he gets these players drafted, it's marketable for him. Exactly. That is a factor for some teams too, that they're going to lose that edge. And I understand where Melnick's coming from. He's not the only one. The Montreal Canadiens, who are so invested in this draft, would like to do the same thing.
Right, exactly. Why wouldn't they? I mean, when you think about it, it's like, I mean, if you get Lafreniere, that's like, I mean, I remember when the Flyers picked up, when they finally got Lindros, like the difference that makes in trades and ticket sales is immense. I mean, that's
you got an arena built by getting Lindros.
Yeah, Lafreniere could mean 10,000, whatever amount of tickets sold.
Yeah.
So I think that there's a benefit of that. But what was interesting about Melnick doing that is it shows one of two things: either the NHL really still could be doing it in June, and that is still out there,
right?
Or he's just not connected at all to what's happening in the NHL. Because I think I got the impression that it was no way it was happening in June all of a sudden. But then when you heard an owner come out and say something like that, owners usually are the most tuned in of anybody.
Well, it's funny because we heard the talk from Drew Doughty about not wanting to play games because the Kings are out of it. We heard Devin Dubnyk, sort of slam the hub situation because he didn't want to be away from his family. I'm a little intrigued by the Radko Gudas comment from, I don't know if it was yesterday or a couple days
ago.
They says they won't let us go to the Olympics so we won't get injured, but they want to keep the NHL season running in these times. I'm like, so I don't put that at the level of being tone deaf like Blake Snell, but I'm sorry.
Radko, it has nothing to do with that. The one is just totally specious argument. I'm sorry, it's not.
I mean, I have respect for Radko, but at the same time, it was one of those. It did have that apples and oranges sort of.
Yeah.
False equivalency.
Apples and water,
or misplaced equivalency in this case that he was trying to make here.
I mean, there's something that both those things of them not going to the Olympics.
Yeah, you can't separate. I get the emotion of it. It's tough to separate the emotion of it too. So
I think what Gudas was trying to say, similar to Snell, was, hey, it's kind of risky for players to play right now, and they're trying to get us to do this while it's kind of risky. I think that's his way of saying, yeah, I am taking a lot of risk here, and I don't know what the future holds if I were to get this virus. And I think players don't want to come out.
But he's also coming from the point of view of Russ personally that he doesn't think he's going to be back with the team. He's going to be a free agent. He has no idea what his future is. Whereas other players with multi-year deals, they know what their situation's going to be.
But at least he doesn't go down the road that Snell basically being a baseball prostitute and saying, well, I would do it for $10 million, but I won't do it for $2 million. It's like, okay, I'm sorry. I mean,
that's a problem. Something again with this, again, using a Twitch channel and kind of, it was just very much a stream of consciousness type of thing where you get, this is what he's thinking in his head, Snell. And, sometimes we say things that live and then all of a sudden it's, we'll pull that bump back. It probably wasn't the greatest idea or didn't quite sound right. But again,
that's kind of what I'm taking out of that. I mean, honestly, what Gudis is just to realize is that both those things, them not going to the Olympics and them playing now, are done for the same reasons, and they're for the betterment of the NHL. That's what's happening. I mean, it's like, they're not. They aren't. You could say they're not caring about the players. Is ridiculous. They're trying to keep their league. They're trying to keep their league going. That's basically what they're trying to do. Right?
They are trying to keep it going. But again, I think what we could take from them deferring what the players are going to do till the end of the month, to me, that's the deadline from the players to the owners saying, well, if we're going to do this and still all be on the same page, this is all the time we're giving you. We're not giving you past the end of the month to decide on our last paycheck. If you don't figure it out by the end of the month, we're going to cash our last paycheck. That's the way I read it.
Right. Yeah. And
that's good. That's accurate.
And the time frame, 7 to 10 days, that's May 31st. So that's the last day of the month. So yeah, I think, maybe it's just simply the NHL is getting all their ducks in a row. And now I like I said, I don't like the fact that they need to announce everything at one time, but I guess for organizational purposes, fine. They do that.
But at the same time, I think if you want to show a organized that we have our stuff together and everything, we have accounted for as many contingencies as possible,
right?
Without it just coming out in dribs and drabs, I think then that's probably the way to go, and that's how a lot of organizations are really going to think. Let's put everything in. Boom, boom, boom. This is what we're doing. This
exactly it.
My wife, in terms of the job that my wife does right now as an administrator, they prefer if you can get everything in one shot and everything's there. Just refer to the one thing. Boop, that's what you want to have.
I think everybody works. My wife works at home too, and she's like, the thing that frustrates her the most about this is the amount of meetings that are being held because of Zoom. Like, she's like, we're not getting any work done, and it's like they had the meeting today, I think, to like organize how they could have less meetings. Like, it was like the crazy thing like that. Like, it was like, it really was, and she was like, this is absolutely ridiculous. Like, she runs this group, and she's like, I'm sick of these meetings. We got to have a meeting to figure out how not to have meetings because it's like, this is insane, But that is because like getting everything done at once is a better plan in this day and age.
We're all in different places.
No, but I did talk about that today. Sorry, I did talk about. I think they've had one too many meetings to try and get everybody on the same page.
Yeah.
You can't get everybody on the same page when you have all these different owners, and I think that has sort of gotten them stuck in the mud now because there's always going to be differing opinions, but at some point you have to just say, this is what we're going with. Yeah. And because I'll tell you, there are some business experts out there, sports business people who I follow, who I respect. Some of them still don't think there's going to be a season. And
I know,
there is still a chance of that. And
there's actually not a, I'm not going to say, if I was to put it, I would say it about 33%, like 1/3 no season, 2/3 season.
Right. I mean,
and I wouldn't say that it's, I mean, maybe
but that could very much change. And whatever circumstance. So we just don't know. We can put it as of now, as of 4/21 on Tuesday, May 19th.
And that's even given a statement being made like that they're starting in July. I would still keep it at 33%, honestly, or I would make it 25% that they're still in a season because the world is so crazy that things can change so fast that we don't know. Like, we could all go back into camps and suddenly a couple guys get the virus and everything's just forget it. We're not gonna do this.
Yeah, too much of a risk.
I mean, that's going to happen there too. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of pressure, and I don't think the border thing is going to affect people. I don't think it's going to affect the NHL that much. It could, maybe it pushes it till July 15th, maybe, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, a couple things. We can save the Team Sweden thing till tomorrow.
Yeah, let's do that.
Michael Bodker, who was traded, I think, from San Jose to Ottawa. He signed a 2-year contract with Lugano in the Swiss League. Now, the thing that's interesting about this is the season isn't over. I mean, unless they don't play the regular season. And it was, I guess, in the statement, Lugano said, well, we know he's under contract for the remainder of the 2019-20 season. If he has to, he can finish off his games with Ottawa. But beginning in 2020, 2021, we signed a 2-year deal with him. So players are not waiting. If there's an opportunity for them to lock down a job, they're not.
Yeah. Oh, you should.
No, it's true.
No, you absolutely should.
I actually do have breaking news. Sportsnet put up an interview with Doug Wilson in regards to the draft, and they're interviewing players over Zoom. The Sharks have done 160 or 170 Zoom interviews already with players. So that tells you, hey, we knew there wasn't going to be a combine. And so the NHL at least teams have the go ahead to talk to players. That's a big thing. That's going to help them with their work no matter when the draft is. And, Wilson basically in this article says he's happy with the way it's going. I'll be honest, I wouldn't have thought that they were that deep into it already. So it does make you wonder, if they're that deep into it already, are they really going to push it off 4 months? Like, that just seems weird.
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that they're that deep into it at all, to be honest. Because, I mean, think of what else have they had to do? Right. You're sitting around, we're all working. I mean, if you're Doug Wilson and, you're sitting there, you're quarantined, the prospects are all quarantined.
Yeah.
Why not do it?
And up until a week ago, Russ, all we've been hearing is June. So they've had to plan June. So I don't think it hurts them if they say it's going to be in September, because they have all that stuff documented and it's all ready to go. And there you go.
Yeah. If anything changes in the interim and it's something occurs, you're going to be, you have all of your data and you have all of your information and all of your video. You go with it.
And, remember, San Jose doesn't have their own first, but they do have a first from that Barclay Goodrow deal. So, we're talking about a player that probably get in the 20s. So it made sense for them to do the research.
Right. Oh, absolutely. No, it makes tons of sense. I mean, I just got another text here, that they think an announcement's coming today. So I don't know. I mean, everybody thinks it's all over the friggin' map.
It's 4:25.
Yeah.
We're approaching the hour.
Yeah, we are.
5 o'clock. So if something does occur, that's usually when it'll happen.
I can mention that Nico Dawes, who's the #1 ranked North American goalie in the draft, won the Jim Rutherford Award for the best goalie in Canadian Hockey League. So that's pretty good. That could help him get drafted in the second or third round. He still won't go in the first, but leagues are giving out the awards. I saw that the AHL were giving out their top rookie awards. Yeah. I think it's smart to do all that. They're trying to keep people going. They are.
Well, it keeps you got to keep the news cycle going somehow. You got to put something in there. Nothing else to talk about.
Yeah.
Except for hunting bears in the woods.
Well,
we're not hunting.
I know that. I know. You're looking for them, but I had to say it was there.
Hold on 1 second. Really? Hold on. Wow. All right. Yeah. Okay. Well, stay safe. Yeah.
I was gonna say we have breaking bear news.
Breaking bear news. Actually, yeah, that was their hikers that were walking past, right? And they're like, "What the hell is this guy doing? Sitting by a tree doing a fight?" And he's like, they just ran into a bear, a mama bear and 3 cubs about a quarter mile that way. So if I take off all of a sudden,
I don't know nowhere near that bear. They guess she's got her cubs nearby.
No, exactly. I mean, we should not be here probably much longer. But
why don't we finish off with this?
Oh, actually, we should. Hold on. The Rutherford Award is just for the OHL, and then that puts that goal.
Right. I was going to say, I thought it was an OHL award.
No, but it puts him into the running now for the CHL Goalie of the Year. So,
all right. The all rookie team for the AHL was announced today, and I was going to say let's project when these guys will be in the NHL, because I think the forwards were Alex Formanton of Belleville, Josh Norris of Belleville, and Jack Studnicka of Providence. I would say probably all three of them will be in the NHL next year.
Yeah, I think next year for all three.
Yeah, Studnicka, I think especially I think he's going to be able to carve out a role at the Bruins for sure.
Yeah. Now, defense, the Joey Keane, who was traded for Julien Gauthier between the Rangers and the Carolina Hurricanes before the deadline. He was one of the defensemen, and Brogan Raftery of Utica. I don't know much about him, Russ.
I don't know much about Rafferty. I do about Keane. Keane's years away. I would say 2 years.
And we all know projections for player, especially when it comes to defense. It's usually at least
Rafferty had 45 points in 57 games for Utica, and Utica is the AHL affiliate for the Canucks. And finally, goaltender was Caden Primo of the Laval Rockets. So I know Primo got
depending on what Bergevin wants to do, he could bring up Primo and let him be a backup. But the problem is he'll be a backup for the next 3-4 years. So you're probably still better off having him start for Laval to get him more games.
Well, I think the other factor here, Russ, is he's exempt. Charlie Lindgren is not. Why not get another year out of Lindgren, let Primo develop in the AHL, and then expose Lindgren as your goalie for the expansion draft?
Yeah, it makes sense.
It's a solid plan, yeah.
All right, be safe with your with the Bears. I think his screen is
frozen now.
Frozen, so hopefully it's
Eric.
Wait.
Okay.
We had animation. We had animation.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. We're on it.
Okay, so I actually did just see the bear.
Run.
But it's really far away.
Run.
We thought you were part of the Blair Witch Project. I'm glad you're not.
If I see it again, hold on one second. Check this out. So, hold on. So,
oh no, it is breaking bear news.
Breaking bear news.
Just don't get broke. Just don't get broke.
Point to it.
I see it back there.
Can't really see it, but
if it's that close, get the hell out of there, please.
Yeah, I might have to go.
I would go.
Get out.
It is 4:30. You wanted to end the show here, or just like that?
No, I'll take care of the end of the show.
You guys go. Okay. Remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey. See you later. I'll be fine. Don't worry. I'll be updating the blog as soon as I get any news about what's going on here too. So thanks so much, Anthony, for joining us.
And having you for breakfast. Have a nice day.
Yeah. I'll be okay. These